Yo, what's going on? I'm Marcus, and here we do attorney reactions to trending news and current topics. As always, if you get some value out of this, I invite you to like, share, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff, interact. And before we start, y'all know I'm appreciative of everybody who interacts and supports the channel. Thank you 100%. I mean it. I'm very grateful and appreciative of you. Now, always toss this out for the Bar Association, licensed attorney, not your attorney. Find a professional in your area because your professional is not me. Now, if you look at the thumbnail, you'll see it's an interesting thumbnail. Is about temporary restraining orders, and we've talked about them hundreds of times. People file lawsuits and go to court and ask for a temporary restraining order to stop someone for doing something, or they may ask for an injunction. I'll tell you, this video is really about something that I've seen is prevalent. It happens a lot. And normally, when it happens, it's a positive sign for the person that it is happening to. This is the weaponization of the justice system. Okay, well, what the hell is the weaponization of the justice system? Sometimes people have pockets that are deeper than others, and in an effort to use the justice system to deter someone from doing something that they're probably in the right to do, or digging into something that they are probably getting a little too close to something, people will weaponize the justice system and use it against them. We see this all the time when people have money, sue persons who were harmed, or file a counter lawsuit against someone who's suing them because they know that the person that they're suing does not have the resources to fight them in court. One of the times and vehicles where we see this happen is with restraining orders. I was a defense attorney for many years. I've represented people who were alleged to have violated restraining orders. What do I not like about restraining orders is the easy nature with which they can be approved. If you've been watching out there in YouTube land, I actually checked out a video. Y'all go check out. If you haven't already, subscribe, investigate, and advocate. Jed is over there like he digging. He digging. And when you start getting close to hitting something, sometimes it's not uncommon for people to get shook. That's why we're talking about the weaponization of the justice system. So it looks like TIffany Henyard tried to get a protective order issued against Jed over there, investigate and advocate. And the reason being, well, why do you get a temporary protective order or restraining order to keep someone away? Is the standard is there has to be a legitimate fear, a reasonable threat that was made on a person. Most times, if you can hit that standard, you can get this restraining order. Typically, how these restraining and protective orders work, which is the part that I hate, I could go downtown and say that you right now, hey, you came to my house and threatened me and spit on me, and I'm just so scared and shook, and I can describe your name. And most times, the court will issue that protective order, that restraining order for a temporary period of time. Most times it's 30 days. Some jurisdictions it could be 45 days or more, but most places it's 30 days. And the rationale is that the court is like, okay, you came to us and presented evidence, even though it's unilaterally, you haven't heard the other side. Most times, this is the process. Person goes down, complain about the threat and the fear for their life and their safety. Without hearing from the other party, the court will grant that temporary protective order, that temporary restraining order, and then give the defendant or the individual who the protective order against is an opportunity to come down to court to defend against that protective order. What is the problem? The problem is that with that temporary protective order in place, now that person can't come within a certain amount of feet, a certain space, can't be around the same venue as this person. This is important because this is how a protective order can be manipulated. One, the basis for establishing the temporary protective order can be false. That's point number one. And it's solely based on the unilateral facts presented by one party. Two, if it's done at a certain time, it could potentially prevent another party, i.e., Jed in this scenario, from being able to be in close proximity to TIffany Henyard. So now it's a public forum where the public is allowed to go and speak because these are meetings related to the municipality, whether it's the village of Dalton, whether it's the Thornton Township. But if that protection order would have been in place, he can't even go and speak. So it essentially and effectively would be able to silence him. So it looks like, fortunately, the right thing was done and the protective order was denied from what I saw on his content. Y'all make sure to go check out his channel. But I'll tell you, in my experience, when you see the justice system starting to be weaponized, it's a tactic that is done out of fear of the opposing party may have a valid lawsuit. The opposing party is conducting an investigation, and their investigation is getting close to hitting pay dirt or finding some substantial facts that's going to be very bad for the person who's trying to put out this temporary protective order and use the justice system to strong arm someone from doing things. So, most times when you see the weaponization of the justice system, that means the opposing party has a valid argument or are on the verge of uncovering a fact that is very important and paramount to an investigation or the credibility of a person or something to that effect. One thing that I know Jed has been diving in on and advocating on is the allegations against Andrew Holmes and standing up for that victim. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Typically, these are some general rules. I'll say, if you are find yourself in a situation where you have a temporary protective order, do not violate the protective order, no matter what. A lot of times, one of the plays would be that I've seen often is a person gets a temporary protective order against party A. Then that same person who got the protective order calls party A and is like, hey, let's meet and talk about this to see if we can hash things out. And person A is like, sure, out there. This is great. This is what I wanted. I wanted an opportunity to talk so we could get to the bottom of some things. Person A goes to meet the individual who filed the protective order. And what happens? The person who filed the protective order immediately called 911. And the judge will not give a damn about the reason, the rationale, or the basis for violating the protective order. In situations like this, I have seen a situation that was kind of analogous to this situation. In this situation, the individual was actually successful in getting their temporary restraining order, protective order filed, but the person who the protective order was against was in that advocate role trying to speak at public events. What we had to do was actually petition the court to allow this individual to be able to participate in public meetings and functions, even though this person was in close proximity to the person who filed the temporary restraining order, no matter how bogus or legitimate it may have been. One of the conditions in that situation was this person could come to these public events, even though he had this protective order against an elected official. However, the person had to make an effort to, one, contact law enforcement 24 hours prior to the event being established to note the time, the place, when, where, and why it would happen. And the event had to be a function that had some type of legitimate security measures. In this example, the legitimate security measures were local law enforcement. Local law enforcement were always present. Now, I will tell you, I don't know how viable that would be if these facts were applicable to the village of Dalton and what's going on in Thornton Township, because I could see a scenario where certain persons may say, well, if law enforcement has to be there, I'll direct law enforcement not to be there. Now, with no law enforcement there, this person can't comply with the judge's provision that would allow them to attend this meeting. So, hey, at the end of the day, I'm all about seeing justice served. It's just, I've never been a fan of weaponization on the justice system on either side because I think that's just bullshit in my personal opinion. But normally, when it happens, it means that the party that is happening to, you may be onto something. So if it's happening to you, keep fighting your fight, keep doing your thing. As always, I'm Marcus. And if you enjoyed this video, check out the content on the screen. There's going to be more content related to attorney reactions.